Hello, this is Harry Reasoner again, and today I'd like to make a video response of Keith Truth's atheist indoctrination and truth censorship. Keep up the good work there, Mr. Truth. In this video, Mr. Truth discusses the cases of three very famous men of science, very gifted and competent men who were treated very unfairly by this grand scientific conspiracy to keep out the truth of creationism. Now, the first case he discusses is that of Nathaniel Abraham, dismissed from a position at Cape Cod Research Center. Now, Mr. Abraham was hired to do studies basically in evolution, but not long after being hired, he announced that he didn't believe in evolution. So he was fired. It would make sense to me to say fire a massage therapist who doesn't believe in muscles, or a doctor who doesn't believe in medicine. But we could argue it back and forth. The thing is, it's already been argued. It was argued in court, Mr. Truth, and good old Nate had his case dismissed. Now, the next great case is Dr. Clifford Burdick, another victim of this scientific conspiracy. He was refused a PhD at the University of Arizona. Was he discriminated against? Well, Mr. Burdick has admitted that he failed his comprehensive exam. You see, he failed his exam. He failed it. I think he failed it because he didn't know the answers to the questions that were asked of him. It really had nothing to do with any of his religious beliefs, and the lawsuit that he filed was turned down as well. But you know, it's funny, and maybe you creationist guys should be happy that he didn't gain any respectability. He did go on to help create the hoax of the Cretaceous footprints in the Paluxy River. And he also was behind a hoax claiming that there had been found coniferous pollen in Precambrian rocks. But you know, the bottom line is, he failed his exam. And the third sad story is that of Jerry Bergman, released by Bowling Green University. Well, he was denied tenure, apparently, solely because of his religious beliefs. Well, he wasn't a professor there. He hadn't earned his PhD yet. And Mr. Truth, you should check your facts. He was on a temporary contract pending the completion of his PhD, and it was also discovered that he had lied about his incoming credentials. He as well filed a lawsuit which was turned down. He appealed, and his appeal was turned down. You know, if your little conspiracy can only be propped up with these three pathetic examples, Mr. Truth, you should reconsider what you believe. But if you want to talk about discrimination, I did some poking around. You see, I'm considering a career change, and I went to the Answers in Genesis website tonight, thinking that, well, maybe they'd have an opening for a guy like me. I found something very interesting. Well, it turns out that they're advertising a seasonal groundskeeping position. That, you know, I could use some outdoor stuff. That sounds good. And I'm just going to look down at the qualifications here, and I see items needed for possible employment. And I want you to look at that. Possible employment. In order to be considered for employment, I need to submit my resume, my salvation testimony, my creation belief statement, and my confirmation and my agreement with the Answers in Genesis statement of faith. Come with me, Mr. Truth. We're going to examine the Answers in Genesis statement of faith to see how open-armed they are about embracing science and truth. Priorities. Number 1. The scientific aspects of creation are important, but are secondary in importance to the proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Alrighty. From the basic section, number 2, the final guide to the interpretation of Scripture is Scripture itself. The account of origins presented in Genesis is a simple but factual presentation of actual events, and therefore provides a reliable framework for scientific research into the question of the origin and history of life, mankind, the earth, and the universe. Let's pop down to the general section. No apparent, perceived, or claimed evidence in any field, including history and chronology, can be valid if it contradicts the scriptural record. Look at number 5 there. The view, commonly used to evade the implications or the authority of biblical teaching, that knowledge and or truth may be divided into secular and religious, is rejected. What do you think that means, Mr. Truth? Now, Mr. Truth, where I live in Ontario, Canada, it is not legal for anyone to be discriminated against on the basis of religious affiliation or lack thereof. As a matter of fact, during the application or interview process, a prospective employer is not even allowed to ask about it, let alone take any answer into consideration. It's deemed to be irrelevant. Now, the fact that we see this right on the Answers in Genesis website makes me really wonder about them, because I doubt very much that the laws are any significantly amount different in Kentucky or in anywhere in the United States. And the fact that you mention these lawsuits based on this very same topic makes me suspect that that's the case. But I want you to stop and think. Who's stopping the progress of science here? Who's impeding the search for truth? Is it science? Or is it these people who insist that nothing we find that ever would disagree with Scripture could possibly be true? Why don't you stop and think about it? You should first maybe take your head out of your ass, because I think that it's been a while since your brain got any oxygen.